How's it going, everybody? Chadley here, and in today's video we're going to be looking at some balance changes that are finally happening in Outriders. This game is what now, 9 weeks old, 10 weeks old, somewhere around there. It's been over 2 months of this game, and we have yet to receive a buff for any of our characters really until today. All 4 characters are getting a buff, and also some armor stats are also getting a buff as well in terms of health on the armor. We'll get to that a little bit later in the video. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. They said they have a lot more patches coming here this month. So hopefully that means we get even more balancing and this game's going to be in a much better spot. Because what I'm really hoping they do is they keep putting out these updates and get the game polished and then release a DLC. And hopefully that will get a lot of people back into this game because this game is seriously all there at its core. It just needs this polishing. Otherwise, when this video comes out, I'll be live on Twitch testing out these buffs. So if you guys want to see that live in person, hopefully I'll see you over there. But otherwise, let's go ahead and jump into these patch notes. Now, for this video, I'm just going to be going over the balancing section. There was more to it. I'll have a link to like all of the stuff released today down in the description. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to go over there. But otherwise, starting off with the preamble, they said today's changes focus primarily on buffing underused skills and improving player survivability via armor rebalancing. This is only an initial first pass based on the mass player data we are seeing in our analytics. If something has not been mentioned here, do not fret. Work is already underway for upcoming balance passes. So this gets me really excited for the next couple weeks. I really do think we're going to be seeing very good changes, and they also mentioned legendary drop distribution. So if you guys have been having trouble getting a certain piece of gear that you still really need, hopefully these upcoming patches will address that. They're also looking at timed expeditions and how it's kind of focusing on DPS sort of things. So hopefully we'll see a balance here in the next few months where you guys can focus on those tank builds or those support builds and really be able to contribute and still get the gold rewards easily. Because they do mention for this specific change to timed expeditions is something that's going to take some time. So don't expect that this month or anytime really soon, but just note that it is in their minds and something that they are working on. So first up for the balance notes, we're going to be talking about health on armor. They have increased the health bonus that the armor attributes have given you. Basically, this was a throwaway attribute for the entire time of this game. If you had this on a piece of gear, it was pretty much worthless. It gave you pretty much no benefits whatsoever. So now if you guys are stuck with any sort of like set bonus pieces that have health on it, it's going to actually be able to help you at least slightly. It's still not going to be great for damage, but it is going to help you guys stay alive a lot better. I still want to see random attributes on legendary pieces, so that way we still don't even have to use health. But this change for the time being is a good change. But now on to the characters. So first up, we're going to be talking about the Devastator. They have adjusted the Reflect Bullets and the Impale skills for the Devastator. So jumping into Reflect Bullets first, it had its base damage increased by 250%. They say this buff will help players better deal with smaller mobs, but efficiently killing elites will still require the use of other skills as well. So don't expect this to really be a single target meta option, but it will be a lot better for ad clear. And then one of the mods to go with it, Bullet Acceleration, increases the damage that Reflect Bullets does. That mod has its damage increased by 330%. So from 10 to 33 at level 1. So this is going to help you guys deal a ton more damage if you spec into Reflect Bullets. And then Impale, the second skill that the Devastator had adjusted, the HP regen granted by the Impale skill has been increased by 50%, so that should help you guys survive a little bit longer. I don't really see the need for this too much because with bleed on Devastator anyways, when it's working properly, you can survive pretty much anything. Your health regen is pretty darn ridiculous. Then they also increased the range from the mod Vlad's Grasp, which inherently increased the range of Impale by 25%. That is now 100%, so you guys can hit enemies from much further away now. And then the big downside to Impale for me has always been just it doesn't register the enemies as dead, but they did address that here below, and they do know that we want them to be registered faster, but this could have some ramifications, so they are working on something there. So hopefully that is a change we can see here in the next few weeks. I'm not really too sure how much these two changes are going to help the Devastator in overall damage dealing, because to me, the Devastator never really lacked in AoE clear. It's always been single target damage, and none of these skills really focus on that. Even the Reflect Bullets thing, they still say you're going to need to use other stuff on elites. So I'm not really too sure how helpful this is going to be for the Devastator. But otherwise, moving on to my boy, the Pyromancer, we saw a very big phaser beam buff. Phaser Beam actually already did a fairly decent amount of damage when you guys respect properly, but now it's had its base damage increased by 100%, and then also it's going to be benefiting even more than it already was from status effect power on your armor. So if you guys are using that Phaser Beam Overheat build that I put out a while back, this build should now be unreal in terms of damage for single targets and also mobbing. I think Phaser Beam might now be one of the strongest skills for the Pyromancer. I still don't think it's going to quite compete with Overheat in terms of ad clear and also just some single target damage on top of it, but I think combining Phaser Beam and Overheat now is going to be the move. You still get that crazy AoE clear, but also you're going to have some insane single target damage on top of it. I think this is going to be huge also for playing multiplayer, because a lot of the times with the Pyromancer skills, they were really good for solo, but then once you jumped into co-op, you weren't able to kill these enemies in just one combo. You had to do combos maybe 2 or 3 times to actually kill even the most basic of like riflemen and stuff. So hopefully with this change, if you guys are using Phaser Beam, you're going to be able to take them out in one hit, even in co-op. Then the second change that they did revolving around Phaser Beam was the mod Volcanic Armor, which decreases the amount of damage you take while you're casting Phaser Beam. That had its effectiveness increased from 50% up to 65% for both anomaly and physical damage. I never really used this mod too much anyways. As long as you had a group on fire from your heat waves beforehand, you never really died anyways casting Phaser Beam, but if you guys ever had issues surviving, this should help you even more. Moving on over to our Technomancer, we finally got some Tools of Destruction buffs, mainly regarding the RPG, which hit like a wet noodle. It was so bad. So it had its base damage increased by 66%, which is a pretty good change. I don't know how much this is going to be, especially once you play co-op, but also the RPG summoned by tools had its fall off reduced / minimum range increased by 50%. Basically what this means is the minimum range is determined which distance from the epicenter of the explosion an attack will still deal 100% damage. After reaching the edge of the minimum range, damage fall off commences. So this should help you guys deal with mobs a little bit more, so you guys can hit more enemies with the full damage. And if you combine this with the buff to Demolition Man, which is the mod that increases the base damage of the RPGs from Tools of Destruction, we might be able to see some fairly decent damage out of this skill. And then they also messed with Fixing Wave, so the healing provided by Fixing Wave has been increased to 65%. This was previously 33%. And then a huge change to me with Cold Snap is the armor reduction dealt by the mod Frostbite has been increased to 100%. This was previously 35%. So if you guys run out of blighted rounds and you're kind of waiting for the skill to come back, you guys can proc Cold Snap and then still be able to actually kill things on the battlefield because their armor is going to be reduced by 100%. So this can be very helpful for dealing with enemies when you're on cooldown. And then the mod Ice Ice Baby, which just dealt damage when you applied Cold Snap to an enemy. This damage was increased by 300%. I still don't know if I would use this mod, but it is an option. And then the final change to the Technomancer revolves around the freeze turret. Its duration was increased to 30 units. It was previously 20. So basically this increases the turret's health by 50% and it prolongs its life. Now, after making a freeze turret build, I still don't think this is what it needed. I think it just needs better aiming. Like, it misses probably half of its shots, which really lowers its damage. So they either need to fix that or just increase the amount of damage it deals. I don't think its health was a problem, especially considering how low its cooldown was anyways. You were just always throwing them and they never really died. Overall though, I think the Tools of Destruction buff for Technomancer is a very good one, and hopefully they keep buffing other aspects of it as well. I'm mainly praying for the minigun to be able to move at normal speed when you're not shooting it. I only want to see you slow down once you start shooting the minigun, because during these timed events, you cannot afford to be moving slower than a freaking turtle. It's unbelievable how slow you move with that thing. But now finally, let's go ahead and look at the Trickster changes. So they adjusted Borrowed Time, Hunt the Prey, and Temporal Slice. So with Borrowed Time, they increased the damage dealt by the Aggressive Teleportation mod. It had its base damage increased by 111%. They said this mod needed the boost to make it more worthy of the legendary status. And then with the skill Hunt the Prey, the mod Backstabber had its damage increased by 100%. I'm not sure how many people were actually using that mod, but if it is something you're using, it's going to be double effective, which is very nice. And then finally for the Trickster, the Temporal Slice mod Strong Slice had its damage increased by 71%. If you guys are doing any sort of Temporal Slice build, this should help you out a ton. But overall, that was all of the changes that we received today. So my thoughts on this as a whole, I think this is just a really good start for the rest of the patches that they're hopefully going to be doing every single week this month. I think they're slowly going to be continuing to polish out this game and getting everything balanced and where it needs to be. Hopefully this can set us up for a really good DLC that can really re-spark the life of this game, because once again, I do really enjoy this game. I think it's all there. It just needs the execution and the polish to be able to reach its full potential. Yeah, once again, I'm going to be live at the time of posting this video. So if you guys want to see any of these buffs live, hopefully I'll see you over on Twitch. Hopefully you enjoyed this breakdown of today's patch. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like on it to let me know. Also consider subscribing for more Outriders content. But anyways, guys, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. See ya.